It's actually 4:30 in the morning. It's pretty common over the last several years for me to not have good sleep. It's another toll that happens when your beloved joins a cult and blows everything up, even previous to the actual act of suddenly moving out and taking the kids to an unknown location. There was the lead up to it that caused such anxiety, and I just didn't know what to do about it. I remember being angry, and it angers me to when someone walks away like she has such an ability to do. I've actually never seen anything like it. Cutting off any input. Real quickly, I want to say that the parallels of the girlfriend I was telling you about are just unbelievable. Where she literally said, "I don't want your feedback." Because I was saying, how about we feedback to one another? I thought it was a good concept. A lot of these concepts I come up with also because of growing up the opposite of what people would accuse a man of being, and that's a misogynist and sexist, is I'm giving what I believe that women are asking for, and that's emotional availability and vulnerability and truth. I thought conceptually, the concept they gave me, I was doing that, asking for feedback. And I understand what this does to someone, especially someone in hiding. It doesn't want to be vulnerable, doesn't want to tell the truth, all the things that they're asking a man to do, incapable of doing it. And so then the cover up just gets to be extraordinary. I could not believe the way. I remember one time I was going, listen to me, listen to me. And, you know, the more you say, listen to me, that's the irony is the more I push, the more pushback, the more ignoring, which angers me, to be ignored like that because we're partners. We're partners in parenting at the very least. And to have the walkouts and we've had terrible incidents in the front of our house. Because I go a little, you're going to hear now crazy. Yeah, I go crazy because I just can't make any logical sense out of this. And it really jostles so many emotions in me to be ignored, and I'm in fear. And I guess I engage her fear. So she's literally like run me over with the car. I'm half in the car because I'm trying to stop her. I have just no methods to stop this running away, avoiding, ignoring. It's just such, people use the word abuse, but it just feels like emotional abuse to not listen to someone, to do the opposite of what would be good for a family, or being honest. That would be good for a family, to be honest. And I'm asking for honesty. Worse. But she could take it to a degree. I used to call it the face. My ex-wife would give me the face. And it was just this blank, emotionless, robotic face that, again, I'd never seen it before. And I remember one time she just put the pillow around her ears and just scratched her ears to make a noise so that she could drown out my noise. Just so, my visual of it is just so caustic, toxic, and rude. And I'd say, take the pillow off. So, and then if I reach down and take that pillow off, that's the point of no return, because the only return is going to be, oh, here's a man for lifetimes ago. That's what a man does. A man acts physically, and that's my physical act of pulling this pillow away. I remember one time I had her backpack because I was so desperate. I said, please listen to me. Please listen to me. So what do I do? What do I do? I did the same time that she charged me. I took the phone and I said, I'll give it back if you tell the truth. But somebody programmed like this does not have an interest in giving in or surrendering. And it's not going to be a forced surrender. It's just not going to be that way. See the dogs barking in the background, even though it's the wee hours of the day. So that scares me that this is the problem with having a cult. I'm scared that somebody's breaking in the house to kill me because you just don't know what they're capable of. Knocks on the door. I love people, and now I don't want knocks at the door because I'm afraid it's the police or child services or something like that, because she can go that far and has gone that far. She has not gone far into herself so that she doesn't do these things. She has not examined why she can so easily manipulate systems and everything else. Knowing, by the way, knowing that women win these battles. Women win the battles because of the history. So if I reach down to the pillow, if I take the backpack, and I took the backpack, and I think she hurt her finger once trying to get it back, and then use that. I remember she went to her friend, I'm using other names, June, and brought this whole scenario of this big bad guy. And this big bad violent guy who's not. I have a tipping point, and I become intense and powerful, and I can understand how that intimidates. This is one thing for sure. None of that ever comes out if there's even decency in return and truth. None of it. So this intensifies when I'm being lied to and avoided. And very simple questions I'll ask. There's no way these questions are going to be asked. So like an intense attorney, I keep going and going and going and digging instead of surrendering myself. So she went back to what I call her, June. It's always close to the real name. And she shows her this evidence. Ah, yes, that's who he is. Now she's got another person and another one and another one. Look at my finger. But there's no way that she's going to anyone with any accountability. Every single story she tells does not have an iota of, maybe if I just would have told him the truth, like a good person does or a couple does, as you work things out. There's just none of that self-discovery. I'm going to keep doing mine and, do the best I can. And sometimes it's not the best, and that's not the best to become intense and intimidating. That's just no excuse. That's just the way it is. As I have this feeling, it comes inside of me. I'm like, God, I'm so frustrated. What am I going to do? What are my options? She exercises her options of secrecy and deception and goes around, and just amazing to me. I'll get back to the girlfriend too. It's amazing to me how these women that I've experienced, I can't say all women, but it's amazing to me what I have experienced with some women, the level of behind the back betrayal, self-obsession, these acts that are just like a spy. I just followed someone who wrote a book that she was a spy for years. Sometimes I'd wonder, is she a spy? I mean, because this is not the person that I believe that I married. But the level of secrecy and hiding, they say you're as sick as your secrets. To me, that's sick. And my perception on marriage is you share. So I gave everything without pause. Everything. Every dime I make, I do very little for myself. I was just watching the Steve Martin documentary, and I think that he has a lot of things in common with him. Obviously, comedian and his father relationship and having children late. And it was interesting to see his process and how he does see the kids his kids as a reflection of what not to do. And that's kind of how I raise the kids. Is I mean, I'm not perfect at that. That's for sure. Like one of the things not to do, I talked about in the last episode, is I say things that are just out of my own personal non-healing. Say things that are still in that space of angst and worry and fear and depression, whatever it is, that I say things out of that space instead of this powerful space that I usually live in. So she goes back and tells June, look at my finger, and now it's abuse, it gets labeled, it's the guy. And that's clever stuff. I can't think like that. I can just, like even this podcast, I'm just simple. Here it is. It's stream of consciousness. It's what's coming up for me. And my memories, I'm just sharing my memories with you. I'm really attempting, and you could find the places I don't, really attempting not to come from opinion, but just let you know the experiences. Now, some of it's shaded with opinion and what I would make conclusions, like I said, about society or history or generational trauma and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm going to make some conclusions based on that, and you can believe those or not. But the facts are the facts, and things are things, and the experience is the experience, and this is what it is. And the experience was with June. I went to an event with my wife at the time for our child, a school event, in one of those all-purpose rooms, and the kids are up there on stage, and I love supporting that kind of thing. It's beautiful. Their whole lives, all 4 children, I'd just go to all of these things or participate in them, whatever it was. We're singing and doing a play, and they have words, anything like that, talent contests, so many of these things throughout the years. And that's when all parents get together in a beautiful community. And that woman sat 2 people away from me and would not acknowledge my existence. This is the mother of 2 of my kids' best friends. And I said to Lotus afterwards, I said, what's up with that? Can't you do something about that? Can't you tell her what the truth is? The truth is I didn't abuse you. You got your finger caught in the backpack. Now, is my abuse that I took the backpack? Yeah, I guess you could call it that. That's for sure. I can guarantee the backpack's not taken if you tell the truth. And the truth is you need to be a couple who's honest with one another, with finances, with things like that. That's what we all deserve to have in return. And that's not what happened in return. She did whatever she wanted to do. She spent on whatever she wanted to spend irresponsibly. So here I'm coming as a husband who's being responsible. He actually does go out and earn the living. And I just can't believe my former attorney would say the word misogynist, because I would express this stuff. I'd express this. It's not fair. It's just, as a guy, I don't want to make it about men and women, but I guess I do. We're really in this position where I don't like victims. I really get bothered by them. And I know that I'm not. I know that that's not what I bring out to the world. If I did, I would not have succeeded away from nothing and, achieved quite a bit. Sometimes, though, I guess it's just got to be okay to express it so that other people can grow from it, or other people can offer suggestions on not being a victim. I certainly do know that being accountable does work. That is for sure. That experience has worked for sure. So in each piece that I do share, there is an accountability on my part. For instance, taking the backpack, that's accountable. That was an option. Taking the phone, that was an option. Desperation. Yet, where are we discovering in ourselves a way to relate to one another in humanity? I mentioned before the reason I left the left is the left has just become this attack source. I try to keep things evergreen and non-opinion, but this is just what I observe is let's just go make a list of what Donald Trump does. And I'm not saying, quite frankly, not into, there is a list. And I'm not into what I see. I don't have to be told. I'm not into what I see. And it started with his debate long ago. First time he debated, I just went, oh my God, he's name calling. It was just stuff that I don't want my children to see. I remember my young son very innocently said, what's up with Mr. Drunk? Like he was a drunk. I don't share the values. Now, you can't attack the left so to convince me of these values that I just don't share. You just can't do that. I will not respond to that. But what I found was the reverse is true. You can't get me to get behind a Democrat or whatever it is by attacking the other side or analyzing, scrutinizing, making a list. I read a list yesterday on Facebook. I couldn't even believe it. And it's being cut and pasted and passed around. Now, the reason I bring this up is a follower mentality. There's so much of it out there. Me choosing to go to this centered space, not center of whatever it is, centered. I'm very centered this way to remove myself from this. I already have a real good habit of not watching the news, but it's obviously it's out there, so it comes across, and same as social media, just boom, it'll pop up, and this one popped up. I actually thought it was written by this friend of mine who's a good writer, but it wasn't. Then I looked at it and I went, wait a minute, he stole this from Mark, and I realized it's the same reason I left. It's just a regurgitation of taking someone else's inventory and putting it out there, and it's all to ignore your own. It's all so we can avoid self-introspection and examination. If you make it about them, you point the finger, and then three are pointing back, but you're ignoring that they're pointing back. You just want to ignore it. Here's where the mob mentality comes in. This is where the way to go. It's done from ego. I did it. I would post these things and I'm letting you know, personal experience, there is no reward. There is no reward in doing this. So what? Yeah, he's done all these things. It's just awful, and some are really awful. But it makes me ignore the person I allegedly support. It makes me not examine them or ask better of them because there's no other. So that's where we are. And that's what happens with the cults. So maybe I can bring this to this parallel, and you might have a better understanding of where I'm coming from. Let's say you're anti-Trump, and you're listing all of these things. How dare he? Oh my God. And then all of the jokes and everybody's trying to be more clever than the next, and they pass it around. It's unoriginal, first of all, when you pass something around that's not yours. What I used to say about him, the reason I wouldn't vote for him is because he just doesn't share my values. That's okay, right? But people who follow him, that wouldn't be okay. And then they would point out, what about the libs, libtards and all this kind of stuff. So I would get in these fights, and I really did believe that I was right. So stepping away, stepping back, taking the sacred pause and breathing, spiritus, Latin word for breath, and really having the breath of who I truly am, this power potency of who I am, let that take over. And that wouldn't inform me or to guide me into, hey, write some stuff that you're regurgitating that was sent to you. I started to go, wait a minute, who's sending this stuff that's the truth? Same with science. Same with during the whole pandemic. Who's sending this stuff to me? I examined that and went, oh, it's people that profit from making sure that I do get into that mob and that gang. So I started to examining the gangs I've been in. I was in the lefty, the lefty gang, if you will. And here's what I have to say. It served no purpose whatsoever. I didn't get into a gang that was loving. I didn't get into a gang that was supportive. If anything, if you say something outside of their scope, attack, mindless attack. I remember one time I was, you can also identify this as, now it's called woke. The virtue signaling, I'm better than you are because I choose the better cause. I've got the better ribbon. That's mob mentality. That's cultish. That's what it is. I'm pointing this out for a reason, because I think we all need to self-examine and figure out where we are in these mobs, the follower ilk, of which I accuse them. They're the only ones, you know, the right wing, the Trumpers, the whatever you want to call them. It's derogatory. So I'm not going to do that. I'm doing it to identify it for the story, but that's not what I wish to do. As a better man, as I become a better man, I wish to work on myself. If I'm in a party, I work on my party. I work on how I can contribute, how I can make my party better, not how I can say how yours is worse. It's a game. They both just come up with lists that they were handed, and then they just bring the list out there, and how dare you could be part of these communists, all of whatever it is. It's just, that's called insanity. The same behavior expecting different results. There's just no result to it. So I'm talking about this in regards to my wife joined a cult. It could be, people have asked me, what cult is it? What cult is it? Well, it's the cult of this woman broke who preys upon vulnerable people, women, mamas that she calls them. So there's something about the word mamas that has that ring to it, like, wow, that's a great identity that I have, that, by the way, men could never have. It makes you an exclusive group when I believe we need unity, especially within a relationship, within a marriage. So now when you're off with the cult of mamas, think about that. If you took a sacred pause, is that serving your family, to get to encouraged to, again, politically, way to go, you attacked so-and-so, oh, you called them the orange, whatever it is. And I did it. I don't feel great about it. It didn't do anything for me to uplift me. It was not spiritually conscious to do this. It was unconscious, thinking that it's the ego, thinking me and my ego would be served if somebody went, a like, a comment. This is the addiction that we're into. It turns into peer pressure, and it turns into cultish. So I began to examine today the cults that I have been in the past, and that was one of them. And I left the left this year, or 2 years ago, or whatever it was. Very happy to have done so, because now I observe and I just watch this ugliness that takes place, and the memes that are out there, and it's the repetitive, it's the repeating of certain slogans and stances, and they are stances. I don't want to get into the political, because I know what that does. And right now, my goal is to encourage and inspire, not make you go into a space of attack yourself, because you might want to attack based on the cult that you're in. You don't want to call it that. No one ever, here's the thing, big key. No one calls their thing a cult. No one out there says, yeah, I'm in a cult, by the way, you might want to join. No one. They'd say to me, did she join Scientology? What is it? I have experience with Scientology. There are lots of great Scientologists, friends of mine. I don't know if I said this before in another episode. I'm friends with them. They never came on to me. I'm friends with L. Ron Hubbard's son, the founder. No one ever. So actually, I called my buddy. I think I might have said this. I called him one day. How come you guys never came on to me? I was like a jilted lover or something. It's like, he goes, because you don't seem like you need it. It's a really beautiful answer, and we're friends. And I can't be disregarded or chastised or criticized because these are my experiences with them. They are my friends. And I don't have the experiences of it. But how about members of 12-step? I've been a member of 12-step programs for for decades, for many years. A lot of really bad people, but a lot of really great people that are on the path to recovery. And here are the steps we take to recover from whatever it is, whatever addiction it is. These are the steps. And by the way, I've analyzed it time and time again and scrutinized it. That this is actually not a cult. If you're in 12 steps, it's not a cult. It can't be. There's no leaders. There's something in there that says we are but trusted servants. We do not govern. There are no leaders. What a wonderful thing that would be if we all did that. I used to encourage Lotus to go, and then she went to Al-Anon. The problem is with the Al-Anon thing is there she gets the blame, like she's with the alcoholic, and that's where her problems are. That's where, whew. And then there's subcults within that. She joined the women's group, and the women's group say, yeah, get away from that. Here's how you respond to the alcoholic, having nothing to do with knowing what the alleged behavior was of this alcoholic, anyway. So then you get that group, little subgroup. You need to make your boundaries and all this kind of stuff. So it's kind of like I almost do need a leader. But if you follow what's written, there are no loopholes. It's absolutely perfect. We are but trusted servants who do not govern, no dues or fees, anonymous. They're at the level of press, radio, and film. It's all written so perfectly. It's a higher power of your understanding, so it's not religious. What a beautiful thing that is, and has led to absolute recovery for me, recovery from a lot of pain. Oof, man. I think you probably heard it. You're probably hearing it now that it's current pain, but the reason I don't want anyone to pity me or say I feel sad for you, yeah, I understand feeling sad for the kids. That's for damn sure. I do too. That's why I do this. That's why I keep showing up for them, despite all these obstacles. And 12 Steps talks about courage. You have to have the courage to change the things you can. And the wisdom to the difference, aren't we there? That's a serenity prayer. So that's sometimes where we are. It's like, well, what's the difference? Can I change something? Is there enough that I could say that would somehow nudge her, guide her, spook her, whatever, into some other direction where she questions the leader, questions her behavior? Or is there someone out there that can have her do that instead of me? So it's me passing it on to them. So this follower mentality that we have in our society, I've had it as well, but somehow, I don't know what it is. I got a little lone wolf in me. I do love people. I love community. I like to be the leader of communities too. I actually am beginning yet another workshop in a community. I've had this idea of a community of laugh-minded people, and I teach people guided laughitation, and it really does change vibration and frequency. It's beautiful. It's all about laugh out love. And I think that it's not a cult, but I would encourage anybody, reach out to me and talk to me about it. If you think it's a cult, then we'll discuss it, and you can challenge me. I'm certainly open to all of that, but I do want to form laugh mobs. We bring that energy out to the world. It's genuine energy flow of who we really are. We really are love, light, and levity. We are these things. But we're just not taught that. We're taught in society to join these mobs of hatred and not unity. It's not a United States whatsoever. And these people who do pull the strings, they love it. They thrive on it. They put so much money into it. And they'll call something disinformation, misinformation, whatever it is. And So these alternative ideas get squashed, and then the peer pressure takes over. So they have the gangs doing the work for them, and that's what. So government is basically a cult leader. I can't make statements like that, can I? My take on it is I've seen enough evidence to support that premise, and I won't get into it. But I will tell you the ones I've been in. I swore when I went away to college, it was a start over type of thing. I was, beaten up and things like that. And I just felt beaten. And I took a gap year, they call it. I worked in a law firm. I actually started my comedy career, which was great. So I was able to supply all the money to put myself through college. I never got one dime from my mom. Sent me $10 one time. I never forget it. I bought beer with it. And I joined a fraternity, and I swore that I would never join a fraternity. I swore it was buying friendship is what I would say it was. It's people that, and I do think now that I'm thinking out loud, as I usually do, I do think it's symbolic. Here I was, this independent guy, but I was lonely. I was alone, 300 miles away from my home, poor and all that, making ends meet and working. I always did a lot of jobs. Always did very entrepreneurial. But I wanted a gang, and I went for the theater, and the theater was a gang as well, and I loved my theater gang, and yet not quite connected. A lot of people like closeted, and I'm not saying this to be derogatory, but closeted is like another form of lying, and I'm not really into that, as you can tell, and so it just didn't fit in there. As much as I'd like to. I got the lead in plays and musicals. Also had terrible experiences with that, with losing myself on the stage and pissing my pants. But I joined this fraternity, and I did something that no one else does. I always do that kind of stuff. I lived in the fraternity while I pledged. I lived in the house. I needed a place to live. Someone convinced me. We had an open place in the house, and it became a place where I could be beaten, literally beaten at any time, or tortured, they call it, tortured, or made to do things, for them, like I was, their personal concubine or whatever. No, concubine sounds like sex. There was no sex involved, but go to the store or just, bend over, pledge, I'm going to beat you, whatever it is. And I found myself out of my system of being, and putting my power over into somebody else, and these guidelines that were absolute insane guidelines. If I tell you what it is, I mean, just ridiculous what I subjected myself to. It was so bad that I got so sick that during another pledge class, Sowerby was deaf in one ear, and they put a firecracker off, and the poor guy was like screaming in pain, and Ed Ball, my pledge, I never tortured anyone, by the way. Once I got into that position of being a brother, and he broke his leg and it was shivering because they keep you cold all night long. They're putting us in ice water in the river and attacking. I still have a scar on my finger from just of glass, and just so much was going on, and absolute, intentionally making you vomit and accumulating the vomit they call the bucket of knowledge, which they dip you in. I mean, just this really insane stuff. If I tell you this, I mean, this is as lightly what they would do is stuff you with cigars and tobacco in your mouth and put you in a closet with the other pledges and make you smoke till you vomited. I mean, just so many things that they would just come up with, these insidious, crazy things that they would do just so you could be a brother. It was, wow, there you go. Here, you drink this, eat this, snort this, do whatever. To be your brother, you got to earn this brotherhood. And I got into it, and I did it. And I did it courageously. And other people I would be that guy, the leader that said, come on, you can make it. We're blindfolded all night long and water poured on us in the middle of the wintertime in the mountains of Pennsylvania. And that's what we do in society. And it's the peer pressure of don't quit. Don't quit, you wuss. Don't quit. Come on, we're in this together. Let's be brave. It's false brave. It's false courage. And I watched the same guys that were ready to quit and crying during our pledge class. I watched them be horrible to people. After that, they became like the abusers. These are my observations of what went down. So I drove them to the hospital. The new hospital is really far away in the mountains, but it was a new hospital. And this tells you the level that I went to of no nutrition and freezing and going through this. And I take them to the hospital. One's got a broken leg that's shivering in his cast. The other one's got this ear thing that's going on. I take them, and I'm in the waiting room, and I went into full convulsions. I mean, big time. And they came out, they shot me with, I think, cortisone or something like that. So turns out I had pneumonia. And, you think that would be the bottom, but it wasn't. I stayed in the fraternity. But those two guys came out. They were released, and they said, "Where's our ride?" They said, "We admitted him." So they admitted. I was there for a whole week. It was bad. And I still get, the reminders. For a while, I had reminders. They put garlic in my hair. So every time I would shower for about 5 years, I'd have this horrible smell that maybe even more than 5 years. I just couldn't believe how long that lasted. They rubbed garlic powder in my head. Another of these tortures. And that's what's going on a lot that I observe in society. That's what happened with Broke taking in as she was the leader. She became the leader first. It was Raven. And then, I wanted to do something. So I took this LifeSpring course years ago. It's now called MITT. So I had Lotus do that. And I was so happy because, she's away from Broke and that spell. And this is a learning course. And we had done another one called Landmark before that. And when we did that, again, people could call that a cult, but it really was not for me because there was no, yes, they tried to recruit and all that, but I basically took what I needed out of it and really had a great relationship with her. And based on a lot of the tenets of that program, Landmark, which used to be EST, which got a bad reputation, this happens with all the groups. But if I can take out what I need, and I thought she would, it's now called MITT. My friend runs it, and I got get her to go. And then I watched the process of someone who is so tender, vulnerable, confused. My assessment, again, my assessment is she became a mom. She became a wife. And her feeling is that she doesn't have any power or identity. I think that's what it is. Again, that's clinical assessment and not reality. But if you can understand what I'm saying, if we can get past what my judgments are, I think that's a pretty good idea of what was going on. And by the way, she expressed some of this to me. So she needed outside validation because it wasn't going to come here from a guy that she's now trying to get away from as the guy that's like the controller, like the one in charge and literally the breadwinner of every dime that comes in. And she had just been part of the other cult. And that she admitted to, that she admitted that Raven was a cult. And she's starting to get in one multi-level marketing after another. What they did a mama's thing, teaching mamas how to raise kids, and all these vanity photos that they took with one another. It's unbelievable. Like, all these photos say you don't need a man. In all of history, you needed a man. Your father was responsible for bringing you into the world, but it's forgotten. And it becomes venomous. And I started to notice, wow, all these photos are family. It's just Broke came down for a photo session. What was that one called? I put so much money into it, you'd think I would know. And yeah, it was the money that I earned. And I wanted to be supportive because I wanted to have compassion for, if she doesn't want this to be her identity, I get it. So, middle-aged and hitting menopause and all that stuff, I get it. So let's have empathy and compassion, Craig. So that's where I'm coming from. What is it called? Mamas, was it so something mamas again? But it's teaching moms how to, whatever it was. And it was raise an independent child and all this kind of stuff. And here's the thing with this cult leader, unqualified. Someone said you could sue just for that. You could sue because she's not qualified to be doing these things and leading these mamas or whatever it is. Not qualified. There's no certificate or anything like that, or no experience. It's they would just do things as they went. She would just pontificate, and I think they brought in another partner, but all the photos were just them with their children. Men aren't needed. Maybe that's one of the intentions of this podcast. I don't know. I mean, maybe to do some switching around here. Let's get together. I just wanted unity with the world and with her. That's all I wanted. I wanted this dream life of a family. I used to play house when I was a kid, or doctor with Livy Leeming, and it felt so great. She would examine my chest with a stethoscope. I remember that tender moment of feeling something I'd never felt in my house, because my house was very disassociated and not loving and all that kind of stuff. But I remember when we played house with Livy Leeming, and we used to operate on her younger brother. And this is when I could live fantasies. So here I have this fantasy come true as this family. Now, the first go around with the other two sons, I mean, that woman literally just went on a vile mission to condemn me and lie about me, to the point where she could get people to get those kids out and move them back to her hometown in Rhode Island. She had just this horrible agenda, and she just didn't stop at anything. She would accuse me of anything. Molestation, kidnapping, or what else? I mean, just abuse and physical abuse. I mean, she just went, and she knew that people respond to that. I was afraid to even say the word molestation, even just now. I don't think I've said it on a podcast yet, because someone hears, oh, what does that do? What does that do to you listening? You think, hey, it could be guilty. Of course you do. I think it if I hear it. But that's what she knows, and that's the trick. And that's what Lotus knows as well. That's what Broke knows as well, is what's society going to respond to, that these men are doing this, are keeping us down, they're whatever it is, they're abusive, because there's a track record of abuse, physical abuse, men killing, raping, all those things. Women aren't known for it. So it comes with a reputation when you're a man. And I got to tell you, I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy. It's not a bragging thing. I'm a good guy. I've done tons of really bad stuff. But underneath it all, and I believe she's a good woman. And we become vulnerable. I became vulnerable to that. It's just this longing inside. It's like, where am I going to get my validation from? Where am I going to get those feelings that I seek, that I'm not getting in my home, or I'm not getting from myself? And we go down these paths. I joined this fraternity. It was just about drinking. It was just about disassociating and anger, misplaced anger, and so much is going on. Beatings, literally beatings. It's just, I mean, it's insane. And that was my one cult I was in. I've probably been in a few others, but I never really joined anything. I could never join anything because something inside of me said, no, get your independence. And let me tell you, it's an alone road. I'm not going to call it lonely. It's an alone road. I call it rarefied air. To be in this space of listening to the potency when these people are making us impotent, men and women. So not only men are impotent, they take away your power and have you empower them. My dad did it. That wasn't a cult, but I would visit every weekend when I was about 21. I lived with my friends, and we would go we had a house full of guys that we all graduated together, high school. And we would go up every weekend, and I watched how it operated, and he was a manipulator. Again, I don't like to say terms of somebody or label them, but here's what he did. We would go up. It was me, Rob, Steve, and Mike every weekend, and build this mule business with him, this farm. He had all these acres. At least I think he did. I never knew with him he didn't tell the truth a lot. Boy, look at that. Look at that repeat. Not telling the truth. Yeah. Hiding money. Oh boy, a lot of repeats now that I'm thinking of it. But yeah, I married my father. Say you marry your mother. I married my father. Just these deceptions and things and manipulation and control, using come here, go away as control and taking things away and giving. And, you know, like it's just a manipulation. So I felt manipulated. So I would go up every week. And the one thing he did was he would rate the women. And whoever won the award that day, whoever did the best with the mules or worked on the ranch properly or did, you know, whatever it was that they did, they got to sleep in his quarters with him. They roll up their sleeping bag. They'd all sleep in this big area. Goats were in there. And I mean, and then he would just tap them and they get to go with, he called himself the king of the Poconos. You can be part of my empire is what he used to say to me. 75 mules and about 14 women. He had one like lackey guy that would do some mechanical stuff, but in general, and the way he would work people is he would have meetings to let you know what the king thought of you. So instead of empowering ourselves, which at 20 years old, we don't really have that ability, we allowed this man to tell us who we were. And he would rate us. I can imitate him. He'd say, hey, Rob's number one. Just because you're my son doesn't make you number one. You got to earn it. Steve, you're number two this week. Craig, number three. Mike, you're out there. Poor Mike. Mike never got the good ratings. But Rob, I was just with his widow recently. Rob is a very good friend who passed away 10 years ago. Rob was always number one. Now, what does that do to me that makes me compete? And that's what a cult leader knows. They use these emotional manipulations to make you compete for their affection and attention. So Lotus is like number one with Broke for attention and praise. She's number one. That's Broke's Rob. And Rob became like a consigliere for my dad. And then my dad started manipulating him. He made him buy property up there in the Poconos. It was Pocono Adventures on mules, taking people on mule rides. I know this sounds all crazy. But it's my life. It's the life that's out there and challenge after challenge after challenge. And what do I do about it? So back to the MITT thing is, so she goes to this, and this is what was unbelievable to me. I was so frustrated. I was angry, and I was calling the head of it, who's a friend of mine. I was going, what are you guys doing? Can you do this? I was trying to manipulate results. That never works. And I was really angry because guess what she did? She made it into them praising her for her coaching. I thought she would go in and find out how to be a good wife and mother again. That was my intention. Again, trying to control outcome, never a good thing. But I thought that this group, which is cultish, if you will, because I watched what they did, and they would have these groups, and then I look over and she's got a collage of some stranger. I'm going, who's this guy? Honoring this guy, photos of him and making like a collage. And what in the hell is this? These are their practices that they have for whatever it is, the reason they're doing it. That's what they did. And we went to her graduation on Zoom, me and the kids, and it was unbelievable what I was hearing. And she looked just so programmed and so out of it. And we praised her, way to go. But this lost little, I was going to say angel, I guess you could say. I mean, just this lost soul. And there they were, saying what they were programmed to say. These groups of strangers. And all of it, I just keep saying to myself, we have a family. We're here for you. We're here to praise you. We're here to honor you. We're here to love you. We're here to support you. And you can make the illusion that that's not true, but it's just an illusion. It's not true. Something that Byron Katie program, the work is it true? Lotus doesn't ask that question. She assumes things are true based on what she's told by people she empowers. Raven, Broke, other mamas, they got the power. Men get the disrespect. This man gets the disrespect. Here I am, hardworking. I literally just hand my checks over every single time I come off the road or whatever it was. However I earn my living, nice living. Here you go. Just hand over the check. And it turns out she was taking those checks, putting them into secret accounts, knowing that she was planning something that Broke was encouraging her to do. Get your independence. You're a mother and a wife. And that's not something to, I remember this guy did a speech about it. Now everybody went up in arms. And I was like, looking at this speech, I go, this isn't that bad. He's saying that it's not a bad thing to own that you're a wife and mom. Otherwise, we would perish as people. We would perish if there wasn't a mother role. I mean, we're all figuring this stuff out. But I know for a fact you can't have society unless you have procreation, people together, and you wonder what's going to happen to society if it's two individuals. And that's what my now ex-wife chose to be, as an individual as opposed to a family. And I know for a fact that family works. I watched it work with us all the times we do get together, even in divorce, that children are happy and secure. That's the way to learn, not when you're in angst and chaos and mayhem. We learn and grow when we're centered. To have a family is centering. And this is what they prey upon. So I watched her. I said, you got to get out. There's another one. I didn't call it a cult, but you got to get out. And her process of getting out reminded me when she got out of the Raven, they have all these buzzwords to keep you in and humiliate you and shame you. I watched her. We were driving because the kids wanted her out as well. We were driving, and I watched her, and she would like give in, and then I would watch her get a little, stubborn. I'm getting out, and she stayed in for a bit because they were telling her the right things and encouraging her to go for your coaching program, which I don't even know what the coaching program was. Wouldn't share that with me, your husband, who's supplying the money for the coaching program. She finally did it, and I watched her get brave. That's it. I'm out. Which was great. With that, I was hoping all this time that she would do that with Broke, and never has. That woman has had her for 15 years now, since the first insurance scam, multi-level insurance, to Year to Millionaire, to RX, to soaps, to all sorts of things, to funnels, building funnels, and all this kind of stuff. They're allegedly entrepreneurs. You're not an entrepreneur if you don't make money. It's a concept. All these things are into water machines now. They're into orgasms. I just found out recently selling dildos or something like that. I don't know. I'm not going to research anymore. I've done enough. It's just insanity. And these people are insane to keep you in a mob. But it goes for check out your own mob. Are you in one? Religion can be one. Why is it always Scientology? I'm not saying anything great about Scientology. I'm not saying anything bad about Scientology. Same with Christianity. I've been a Christian. I go to a church now and then. A man I admire beyond belief. I don't know if I told the story or not, but this pastor has shown himself to be somebody that I disagree with, but I love him, and I love a lot of his messages. I was talking about this girlfriend that suddenly just blew everything up for no rhyme or reason or anything. I took her to that church, and the guy's sermon was about me and bringing people together. And I brought someone together who's the opposite of him politically. And I just loved this sermon. It was beautiful. We can find this in everybody who we deem to be our enemy. We can find ourselves in them. I just don't want to go about it the way Christians, Jews, I've been, satyrs at my house when I was growing up, and, who my mom marries or whatever it is. I mean, I get to see all of it. And this independent guy, this is an independent guy, I'll take from all of it. Just watched the guy comedy special, and a lot of it was about the the Torah or what he learned. He's bringing it, and these are the things that I've learned. There's some gained wisdom that I wish to share, and I need to share for myself too. This relationship I just had, this girlfriend, I mean, I'm shocked, but I'm not shocked at this behavior of hers that out of the blue. I don't know what her cult is. I don't know what it is, but I do know the things that I recall now a week later or whatever it is. It's still fresh. I do recall when people become life coaches, often therapists the same thing. Often they need it themselves and they refuse to listen because they have all the answers. When I don't have the answers is when answers arrive. When I surrender results, when I surrender myself. When I was asking her, and I watched this real fight. Suddenly there was this fight that I am woman, and how dare you, manipulative man, controlling man, how dare you say you're going to feedback or beam. I don't want your mirror, is what she said. I'm going to go do this on my own. And that's what Lotus did. How in the world can you grow if someone doesn't say, hey, that hurt? Or you might want to try a different way. Or my experience is this, and I've found experience in both sides. This one didn't work, and this one does work. This one hurt people. This one loved people. How in the world, and when we're solo artists, without getting proper feedback from someone who says, reflects back to us, a mirror. We look into a mirror for a reason. Go, oh my God. Nobody told me I had broccoli in my teeth. That's what you can do for as a couple. You got broccoli in your teeth. You keep the broccoli there if you want. I'm going to force you to take the broccoli out, but it's there. And this girlfriend, I call her girlfriend. I mean, this was on its way. I mean, I just couldn't understand. This is, again, our programming that's out there. So how can you just abandon something when you put this love investment into something and you expect the love to be returned? And that's what is happening. There's an exchange of love and divinity and happiness and joy and laughter, fun, community. And to take that and put a stick of dynamite into it with no process, no reason. It's just, to me, that's the insanity of our world. We're quick fix people. We think we know everything. And it was literally, and no matter what I would say to, it reminded me of Lotus, as I say, these children are going to be affected by this. But there's a justification when people do these things. They just justify it. They'll find other people to justify it for them. People that don't know the truth of what's happening. So if Lotus or the girlfriend, if they go to someone else and feedback, even a therapist, say, this, and this, it's only their perception and perspective. It's the only thing they have, right? Just like you're only hearing my perspective. I'm hoping that I'm sharing experience, not perspective. It's going to wander into both, but your feedback back to me is still ill-informed. You can suggest to me what you've done, which I'm open to suggestions of what you've done in your cult situation. I called Catherine Oxenberg, whose daughter dealt with the NXIVM. I remember her talking to me about, she was definitely into how you handle the children. That's always a tough one. Because there's this fine line of, here, I'll tell you that this Rundle, here's another text. He said, you are playing the victim in every way. I don't know where he gets that from. Never met the guy. All these assessments, I have no idea where they come. Well, I do know where they come from. She asks him to do this. She gives her perspective. So here's the feedback of her perspective, just so you know. This is what she's putting out to the universe and to the world. Is this guy is this. And it forces me to defend. And at times my defense is like, I wanted to, I have had visions of going and confronting this guy. Here, tell me this eye to eye, man. Tell me eye to eye. Act like a tough guy, acts like a tough guy. That's how I go into Philly. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Not in a threatening way. Tell me to my face. I'll tell you to your face my truth and experience of what's happened. You think Lotus is ever going to go to anyone, a therapist or anyone, and tell the truth? No, absolutely not. We went to a therapist. I watched how she lied. It was a spiritual therapist who I thought was great, by the way. She's another one. I wish that she would listen to the truth and maybe she could do an intervention. She made the assessments based on her stuff. I watched her do that with me. Saw her individually. She projected her own unhealed stuff with her father onto me. So me saying something gruff, me saying something rough, me saying something with growl to it, anything, you've heard it. I've got that edge to me. That's going to be deemed as, he's that. You got to get away. You got to go protect yourself. As opposed to, what if the solution was, let me self-examine and think, what would make him growl? What would make a dog growl? Well, if you took away their food for no reason, if you took away their water for no reason, if you turned your back on them for no reason, if you stopped being loving to them for no reason, if you were abusive towards them for no reason that they can see. So if someone's growling, maybe listen. And maybe that's the answer, is to look at them as you being a dog whisperer. Our dog, Buffy, is a completely different dog because of my energy changed. If Lotus changed the energy as opposed to going out and go in with love, what would the results be? I know what the results would be for me. Get an even better me, get an even better husband, get an even better father. So when I went into myself, when this girlfriend went for this walk with me and told me this perspective of what women do, how they disrespect men and how they become victims and how they then attack and blame, and she ended up doing exactly that, even going into my phone and violating my privacy, to gather evidence so she could do that. And this is a person that claims to be a life coach. I would not want to take that advice from a life coach. But her and Lotus, any of these behaviors that they do, I guarantee they are not going to people and going, okay, what can I do? I know I do. My process. I went to Akila yesterday. Here's my stuff. I'm on the phone too much is one of my things I'm guilty of. That was what was great about this girlfriend, when she reflected back to me. You're on your phone so much, I wanted to see what you were doing. So that's why she went into the phone. That was her excuse. I'm not saying it's a good thing. But I looked at it as going, my mom tells me, or my kids tell me. So now I get to go, let's adjust here. Let's get off this damn phone, find an alternative. It's an addiction. I encourage anybody to do that. Self-examine. If somebody says something to a reflective way, not in a mean way, reflect back to one another, and we can all heal and get better. That's my concept. It's not only a concept. I've watched it work. And even in this case, again, that was horrible what she did. I mean, I was reeling from it. I still am a little bit. But I also went, where's the lesson here? If you're more present, maybe she wouldn't have done that. Maybe. Same with Lotus. More present, more active. I do regret that I should have asked on more dates, should have gone back to the spiritual center where we met, should have done a lot more of that stuff. And if we were ever married, if we did stay married, I can guarantee you that's exactly what would take place. What slips away, let's come back. I encourage anybody to find your center, not empowering someone else, your center. When I find my center, it's a wonderful place to be. I think that that's where this whole thing is coming from, this podcast. I don't know. My inspiration is to say, My centeredness leads to listening to this giant source within me, that the breath, and just become this vessel of peace and joy and happiness and love and laughter. I didn't do a lot of laughter stuff in this. I understand that. Part of it has to do with, if I don't have feedback, like I'll tell a joke or whatever. If I don't have feedback, I'm not sure. So this is just me talking. Or here's what he says. He says, "You are playing the victim in every way. I hope one day that you realize the damage you're creating for your children in telling them everything negative and made up stories about their mom." I had them do a video to their mom of what's not made up. Not made up. This stuff is not made up. None of it. It's all confirmed by them. Every bit of it. So if I am killed or somebody comes after me, the evidence is there. It's one of the reasons I did it. But I'm not subjecting them to my poison, my version of her. I'm saying, she's said this about me. What's the truth? So it's like, well, if you don't want these results of my responses, then do something of value. Do something with morals. Do something where you're actually being honest. So this guy, ironically, she's being a victim of me allegedly doing these things, but doesn't examine how that might have happened. How are we in this position where kids are asked to be on a video and talk to their mom and say, please stop doing this abuse? How are we there? Because it starts with, she didn't go in, she went out and empowered this guy, this jackass. I'm sorry, I called a name. So made up stories about their mom. How does he know that? Never, ever, ever has he been in our presence. And this is what happens, everybody. This is the cult mentality that we live in. We believe the memes are sent to us. We believe the sources. But if you examine the sources are all up to no good. A lot of them are up to no good. They're sponsored. If you're talking about things in the news that they're telling you, it's all sponsored 100% of the time. I get to examine that now and step back and say, oh, conspiracy theorists. And then I get to step back and go, oh, you're called a conspiracy theorist because they're threatened by your conspiracy theory. All great things happen with theory. Starts off with a theory that Jeffrey Wigand, tobacco, it's not a theory. This is his experience. He's trying to get this out there. Of course they went after me as a conspiracy theorist. Aaron Brockovich, Daniel Ellsberg with the Pentagon Papers. It's time after time. It's called a whistleblower also, and whistleblowers are attacked. I'm attacked here for doing this, whistleblowing on, and this guy's pissed that I'm blowing the whistle, and now he's threatening me. Blowing the whistle because you're corrupt. This is corruption. I had another husband reach out to me. This is while we were married. He goes, wow, she's doing it with me. And that wife left him as well in the mamas group. He says, this is a complete repeat, yet you don't understand or see the impact of the harm you're causing. Well, Rundle, it sounds like this is a repeat in your life, because let's not attack without looking inside of yourself. I've certainly heard some things about you might want to examine. Also heard that you've been in and out of your relationship, your glorious relationship you have to show off on the internet of your ridiculous engagement party and all this. Yeah, should have a camera on all those times you fight and you split and live in different homes and stuff like that, confusing the kids even more. These confused kids had to have a mother that if you go to her websites or her social media, you'll see bragging about cheating on her husband, bragging. So that's morals and values. I'm not being some moralistic guy, but that's not going to work for your family to teach them that. You run up across an obstacle in your life and you just go, okay, here's my answer. Go have a one-night stand. And then humiliate my husband by saying I had a one-night stand and what it did and all this sexual domination and all this. And then meet Rundle. Suddenly she goes from one, I'm independent, to now I've got this guy and he's probably supplying the money. You didn't get that. It's just, she just pontificates and just says whatever she feels. She's done everything short of, like, I took a really great dump this morning. Maybe she even did that. She just dumps this stuff out there. This broke, this alleged leader. I teach mamas how to have their freedom and how to have that. No, you're not. And what does that have to do with it? She takes it into a whole sexual thing. That's what she did with my ex. My ex cut me off of sex for 2 years. She writes about it. Also, I might have read that before, but she also wrote about it on her Facebook in a beautiful way, too, of how we did come together once and how we did come together because she let go and how. So that's the possibility that's out there, why I kept on trying to get her to get out of the cult and get into that. She shows pictures of us and, the shoemakers are together and all this kind of. She did that at least 2 different times. I saved I might have read them on here. Just beautiful. Like, yeah, here's like admitting and examining and surrendering and letting go. It's always great to let go, as I found. Surrender is the greatest victory. And I had to surrender in this one. I had to surrender to divorce. I got divorced. Boy, I'll tell you, surrendering to this legal system. Ugh. He says, I'm not going to justify answering anything else that you've written or the blame. Projection, 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 projection. He's going to let the world know what I created. A man of integrity doesn't act out in a manner in any way that exposes children to this and create trauma that it will take years to repair. Hey, Rundle, this woman you call your beloved, my ex-wife, who you don't even know, you've never lived with her. It's this phony world of wellness grifters that act like they're in love with one another. They don't live together. They don't have exposure to the uglies. Couples have uglies. It's up for those couples to deal with that and look within how I can best deal with that. You don't have the answers for her. He thinks that the answer is to attack me and threaten me. He thinks that and analyze me and scrutinize me and criticize me. My kids, I had fun with my kids. I read these to them. Yeah, I subjected them to this truth. And I think that's a good thing. People, you shouldn't do it. No. Let them know it's out there. And by the way, if we're harmed, or there's a paper trail now. No reason to think they're not going to harm us. Look at the harm they already did. He talks about create trauma that'll take years to repair. Exactly. That's exactly what mom has done. That I desperately wish for her to get help so she stops. There's no one holding her accountable. She certainly won't. She goes into these cut-off modes that she can't listen to anything. Even her great spiritual advisor, she got rid of and won't respond to his text messages. I asked him to reach out to her, and she won't respond to him either. Nothing can get through this. It seems like she's been possessed by some sort of demonic dark force. I've always compared it to Star Wars. This is Anakin. And the kids feel like this as well. Of course, they respect and love their mom, and they should, and I encourage that. That's why I encourage us to have game nights or whatever it is. Yeah, let's move on. We'll move on as separate. We're not married, but it doesn't mean we can't teach them lessons because we've already taught them the lesson. He's saying create trauma. She's already given them the trauma. They didn't want to be kidnapped twice. They didn't want to be taken away to undisclosed locations, cut off from their father. They did not want this. They didn't want any of this. Just like Broke, she went down that road, and Broke bragged about it. So I don't think that Lotus has bragged about it necessarily. But there she is. Go look at it. I'll tell you the name. You can go look at it. Everybody I send there goes, oh my God, this woman is nuts. She's, scantily clad like OnlyFans. Egomaniacal, and guess who followed it? Vanity Light Lotus. Let me give you another video where I look like I really have it together, and you can join me. I'll imitate her for you. Hi, everybody. I'm doing a dance right now because I am so loose and free, and I'm so free, and I have freedom. You could have freedom too. You can have financial freedom. You can have emotional freedom. I teach emotional alchemy. I teach breath work. I do tapping. I do all of these things because I feel so good about myself, and you can too. Just look at me. 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 She didn't want me and the children to look at her because we know what's phony and what's real. There's a group of phonies. When my oldest son dropped them off to go away to Australia, when she did, that was when the rubber hit the road. That's when Brooke announced that she cheated and had a one-night stand, and I loved it. I felt the power of domination for the first time. And guess what, Brooke? Talk about emotional trauma. What if your children read this? What if a friend of theirs reads this, or a parent of a friend, which they surely will? These kids are humiliated at school. You with your writing crop, talking about domination and BDSM and all this kind of stuff. Your kids. My kids would go away with them and be embarrassed by it. She'd say, oh, she's walking around naked, Mom. I mean, Dad. She walks around naked, this Broke. Freedom. It's a concept. It's a theory. It's not bringing a family together. Didn't bring my family together. It separated them and brought trauma to them. That probably will, you're right, Rundle, it'll take years to repair this trauma of watching a mom run away from their dad and be horrible to him, almost run him over with the car, throw a remote in his face. They witnessed all of that, punching me in a schoolyard, Halloween party. They witnessed all of it. This is in their genes now, in their memories. Doing my best to deal with it, doing my best not to defend. This is one of the ways I do. Is there somebody out there? I've got loads of letters if they want to read them. People that say they've been burned and that this is a cult. And this is what, so I was reading these off of my phone from this guy. My kids laughed at him. They said, my son who does not, oh my God, I really have, these are really sweet kids. The other two sons I've got a rough time with. They really did pick up the energy of that mom with complete parent alienation from day one. I remember I was coaching one time, my son, I was there, follow through. You know, he's pitching, and he just did this really like channeling his mom. I'll never forget the venom in his eyes. I've seen it so many times, venom. He took his hand and like slit his throat, like, shut up. I'll never forget that moment. It was so painful to think that this is the energy that he received from his mom. Pummel these kids. And she used to talk to me about pummeling. Again, projection. Pummel these kids. Daily dose of, oh God, the therapists and minors counselors and courts and subjecting them to this. All of this, I did not have anything to do with. But it didn't stop her. And I got two kids that now have a trauma for the rest of their lives and don't speak to their father because of it. That wasn't a cult. I can't say that was a cult. Although she had her women's groups too. So maybe I can say it. Get out of there. Well, I got out of that one because I saw that coming. I just saw this rage that was unbelievable that I could never, ever compete against. Wow. And then to go to that level, it's the worst thing you can do to a human being is accuse them of these things. So if I didn't fight back, cost me $1 million to hold on to 50% custody. If I didn't fight back, boy, I got rewarded for that. Oh my God. Sometimes the best deeds, no good deed goes unpunished. I really held on to, you're going to have a father. Have a good father who supplies a good life. I remember I paid her $12,000 a month. My friends would go, I'd blow you for that. Whatever that. And yet she would still go around telling people she was this poor single mother. Well, poor because of this mentality is an attacking mentality and using money that should be spent on kids to put it into a legal system that we all know is broken. I encourage anyone, please do not go through a legal system if you can help it. Go through other means. Try everything. I'm trying this, that some family member is going to say, that's it. I've heard enough. Or maybe call her father who has money and influence and power. Maybe sends her to a rehabilitation. The only thing to deal with anything in life is to be rehabilitated. It's to work a program to deprogram. I actually say this to my coaching clients. I say, I'm here to recondition you because we've been conditioned in not a good way. We've been conditioned to adhere to people who are in power positions, to follow, to regurgitate. All education is regurgitation of what they choose for you to learn. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. That's just a fact. Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, Nina Pinta, Santa Maria. I could repeat all that stuff. What good does that serve me any good purpose today? I got an A for that. Yeah. What A does that mean now? Doesn't mean anything. Values are something that I value. The next picture that popped up right next to all of these is a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, right after my son's birthday, it's coming up, we went and rescued our Buffy, our dog, who was literally the last one, not the last one, they're the longest, literally about to be killed, euthanized. And something happened that day. And I like to think that it was this clearing out that's going on here. Me and the children have a pact with one another, this loving pact. And energetically, the dog just leapt right into our laps. And this is a dog that was not wanted. It's mostly pit bull. And now I know people have prejudice. I had prejudice towards pit bulls. So loving, so incredible to watch, but had difficulties. And this lesson for me is somebody taught me to pull on this chain, I guess they call them choke collars. I got one. I'm going to try to control this dog. No. I was dominating, trying to get this dog to stop attacking other dogs. The hair goes up, and I go into a panic. There goes the hair up. And this dog is strong. Ooh, she's got some pecs on her. She was lifting weights in the joint. And man, if she wants to hug you, she's going to hug you. So she's really great with people. Even though people are frightened of her, they go to the other side of the street all the time. It kind of pisses me off. And then I go, oh, that's where you would have gone, Craig, because you were not a pit bull guy. I mean, I wasn't that afraid, but there's a reputation that's out there. Just like men have this reputation of being abusers. Me, big white man, what are all the things that I do? I've had employees that accuse me of this, that, and the other thing. It's like, wow, where'd that come from? I've had all sorts of times in my life where you get that tag, you get that label, you're taking it off because no one else is examining themselves to think of how they put that label on you. They've been programmed in a cult sort of a way. We've all been programmed, or the attempt to program. So instinctually, with intuition, I changed the relationship with our dog, Buffy. And suddenly something inside of me said, be gentle. What has the other done is bring the energy of anger, of frustration, of angst, worry. That's what it's bringing. I'm worried she's going to stay like this. Oh my God, I got to give her back. I was tempted at first, yeah. Another situation in my life. Oh, man, do I need this? And then Lotus, in the cult way that she is, broke her promise. The dog was supposed to shuttle between the children, between the houses. Wherever the children were, the dog was going to go, and she stopped that. Had excuses, lied as usual. God, she lies. Oh, my God. She'd say, listen to this one. My landlord would not allow this. And then a week later, she's got 2 dogs there that she's dog sitting. That's the truth. That's the level of lying she can do. Then another reason, she's too big. Oh, so the landlord's going to go over with a tape measure. And meanwhile, what about 2 dogs as you have here? She's done that several times, dog sits, because there's money involved. Money manipulation's involved because she's manipulating this another person. She's trying to get into her multi-level marketing. Everybody's a mark for the multi-level marketing. By the way, not all multi-level marketing, not all people, just like not all people in any religion. That's the thing. I said something yesterday on Facebook. I said, I did, this whole joke about what it really means to be a personal coach and life coach and all that. I took it down as funny. But one person goes, not all of us are that way. And well, I'm here for good for people. Well, so good. You go do that. But there are people that are this way. They're con artists and scammers. They're out everywhere. And every cult has them. Every element of society has them. Somebody scamming out there. And this woman's on a scam, my ex-wife. So even with the dog. So I started to be in a radical acceptance, which always helps me. I started walking the dog with peace and harmony. And no matter what happens, this is, again, is metaphorical. It's a metaphor for me dealing with my ex. The answer isn't to come forward at her, keep challenging her, which I still do because I slip. Sometimes I'll cut and paste something that somebody else says, like, can you be proud of yourself with this? This is what people are saying. Here's your reviews. Nothing stops her because she's that far in love with this woman. People are saying it's a lesbian thing. I don't know. Some things I don't know, and I wouldn't share it I'm not going to share something if I don't know it. So I'll admit it. I have no idea if they're lovers. I know they went away to 2 different medicine journeys together, which at the time Rundle was the affair. And I remember her coming back. I go, you're okay with that? She goes, she was fine with that. These are little indications. I'm going, oh, she's fine with that. She's going to be fine with her own affair. That's what I said to myself. I had no idea what she was planning. I still don't even know about affairs. I know she has a boyfriend now, but I have no idea. But it's not about that. It's about the affair on our family. Is taking hundreds of hours to listen to this woman who's you're taking your whole soul away, all based on you being underneath her and her downline on whatever multi-level marketing businesses she has, and then convincing her that this is all part of it, to share these sexual feelings, to share all of the feelings that you have. Somehow, this is a part of their business. Makes no sense. There's nothing in business that says this is what you do. There's no success track record, but this is just what they do. And then they get wrapped up in themselves and their egos, and they all encourage each other to share this stuff. It's so vacuous. It's so phony. When my son dropped them off to go to Australia, I think I was telling you this, my oldest son, at the time, he was like, probably 20, young 20s or whatever. I remember him coming back and saying, oh my God, are they phony? These women are phonies. And he got it. Many people get it. The problem is Lotus doesn't get it. So I started with Buffy. I started this different energy, which I'm pledging to do also. I'm going to give this a shot with Lotus. And I've done this before, and it actually has worked. So it's, again, a metaphor, how we are with animals. And the results are Buffy has become so much better, so much more at peace, and so much doesn't cause damage in the house. One time, a year ago, Halloween, I came back. She'd gotten all the protein powder. It looked like the last scene of Scarface. Her entire face, she's just looking at us with this look, completely covered in powder like cocaine. Say hello to my little friend, cockroach. It was unbelievable. The whole house was destroyed. Just in that amount of time that we went trick-or-treating. That was a year ago. Now, I see a dog, and I reward her. I gently say, leave it, Buffy. And I take treats with me now. So instead of getting punished, which causes more anxiety, she gets a treat. Calmer, calmer, calmer. Backwards a little bit one day, calm again. And that is what I believe we can do to one another. That is what I've done with Lotus in the past, and it has manifested itself into beauty and harmony. The Maui trip was the ultimate example of that. This trip just happened where the girlfriend inspired me to go, to take this in a different way, to not be threatening, and then sure enough, the kids thanked me and said they had a wonderful time. And I'm glad that they did with their mom, and she didn't do anything wrong or attacking of me. So that's the answer. Again, I'm going through some sadness and some pain. It's really rough to watch. This whole thing's been rough to watch, to see this person take this road. Yeah, she went on these medicine journeys with them, and I have no idea what that did to her brain. Same person who was the shaman, suddenly we're paying her $9,000, this Robin who has a coaching program. After coaching them through this medicine journey, well, now I got you vulnerable enough. They took some plant medicine. I have no idea even what it was. She didn't explain it to me. One day she came back, and I'm the king, and next time I'm divorced. Which is it? The problem with these journeys, especially given by people that are unqualified, and especially by charlatans that are trying to get you to pay them for a coaching program, of which, by the way, Broke benefited. Broke benefited from what was it called? It was some crypto thing. I had to find that out, that she convinced me to invest in this crypto thing that completely crashed down to zero. She said, well, you invested in it. I said, yeah, you didn't tell me about it. You didn't tell me that Broke was getting commission for it. Just these lies and these lies and these lies. And it becomes okay. It becomes okay. And when these lies are part of your system, it's a poisoned system. Your family system is poisoned. Now, first, I have to look at myself. How do I bring these lies about? Am I causing fear that she thinks that she has to lie? What am I doing that I can surrender, that I can change my behavior, just like I did with Buffy? How can I feed instead of take away or punish? That's the conundrum. That's the thought. That's what goes on. And I go back and forth, and I have good practice and not so good practice. When I'm thin on the practice is when things happen that are really frustrating. When I didn't practice, like with this girlfriend, look, it was meant to be, obviously. She exposed herself quickly. Thank God, right? When I was buying the whole bill of goods, turns out not a good person that would do something like this. And wow, what a smile on her face. Wow, what beauty. Wow, what, helping me in this way. And then I found out this is the same thing with my ex before this. I had an illusion that the help that was given to me was beautiful. And now I get it was part of the control. I'm going to make this guy into what I'm going to make him into. And that's the way I remember, the ex before this. She would, teach me how to deal with grief and some difficult things. She'd say, here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to do. And I actually looked at it as, wow, it's so nurturing. And now I know she wanted to make this guy into what she wanted to make me into. Same with Lotus, same with this girlfriend. I'm going to get this guy to listen to me, to let me coach him. And meanwhile, if I say something back to her, you're not coaching me. I said, I'm not coaching you. So before more was revealed, sometimes people or things or God or whatever you want to call it does things you won't do for yourself. I never would have stopped that relationship. No way. I was going to go in and learn my little lessons to get off the phone and stuff like that, in due time. Now I learned that one in this time. Get off my damn phone. My mom said it. My kids said it. I get it. So I ask you, are you willing to drop things and hear an ethereal voice inside of you that guides you? Or do we want to just stay the same and go get those voices that agree with us? That's what she has with Rundle and with Broke and with their tribe, that they call it the tribe. Oh, God, these white people. The tribe. Tribes were taken away in this country. They really were. God, I've studied that history. It's just awful what we've done. And that's what this is. This is annihilating culture. It's annihilating mores and values that have worked. When we get to those places, it works. they're calling love at the base. There's another documentary about love and the mother, and there's so many documentaries. It's all the same. They're getting people who are not willing to look inside of themselves or find people that will encourage them to look inside of themselves, and they're doing it for them and giving them their answers. It's like cheating on a test. I'm going to give you your answers when you have all of the answers. I have all the answers inside of me. It's a self-discovery. It's an expedition. It keeps on going on. And now I want my life that I deserve. All I want is to heal and love. That's what it's down to. It's heal and love. It's part of my healing. Thank you for joining. Got more to say the next time, but I'll save it. I should divide these things up. I talk so much.